right.
Let's go.
Yep. So we'll start the webinar. For people joining later, there is a recording sent afterwards. So welcome to the Right to Repair webinar. So about the opportunities, obligations, impact retailers. I am Michael Belstrup, based in Copenhagen, working for Vimo. Um, I have a long experience working in the industry when I was working client side. So I will provide an outside-in perspective to the topic that Wilhelm brings to the table. So Wilhelm, if you take over.
Thank you, Michael. So my name is Wilhelm. I am the CEO of Reclaim It. And we basically help retailers with anything that happens post-purchase, like returns, repairs, claims, etc. So for this webinar, we really sit where Right to Repair is going to bite first, which is the after-sales flows, the workshops, the logistics, and customer expectation. And that's my perspective for today. And we have a great agenda. Very excited about this. And this is a piece of legislation, but we're not here to turn you into lawyers, much more to give you a practical understanding, really, so that you can plan organization, technologies, processes that you need for this. So we're going to go through the legislation. What is it? What are the implications? Why did it come into force? How are customers reacting to this? What upsides and downsides are there? And what do you need to do this? We will give you a very practical checklist at the end of the webinar that we'll also send you, I believe. That is a great help for you to get your organization ready. And we'll also talk a little bit about how we can help towards the end.
Yeah, and we have a Q&A at the end. Any questions you may have during the webinar, post them in the chat. I will monitor, and when we have relevant questions to a slide, I will pick up on those and we can answer immediately, but otherwise we take questions at the end of this webinar.
Okay. So we're going to kick off with a little poll on how familiar are you with the right to repair?
There we go. And let's see. Right now, we have a lot of people leaning into, I've never heard of it. I've heard of it, but I don't know the details. So 64% don't know the details. We hope after this seminar, you will be much more enlightened. 21%, I know the details, follow the topic. So we definitely hope that to bring more knowledge to you.
And very sharp questions from that crowd as well, we expect.
Yes. 2%, you've never heard of it. So let's enlighten you.
Very good. So just quickly, before we kick off Right to Repair, Reclaim It, who are we and why is this important to us? Basically, what we do is we help retailers drive sustainable growth through circular business models, like returns, repairs, re-commerce, claims, etc. And we've been at this for over 20 years and currently work with around 600 retailers and suppliers. And we built a business where we today have over 250 integrated workshops, meaning that we can help automate repairs for pretty much anything from a suit to a blender. Not at the same time, though, preferably. Why is this important? Because this means that when we talk right to repair, this is not theory. This is what we do every day. We have the data. We know how operations departments handle this and how they don't. We know whose flows are manuals and whose are not. And we know what happens to consumers when something goes wrong and when retailers don't live up to their expectations. So very excited about this.
Yep. And Vimo, we support the businesses that need to live up to this new regulation. So we build and maintain platforms and provide guidance on how to run these platforms. As part of that guidance, this piece, this new legislation on the right to repair. We're a full service partner, more than 600 employees. We've got more than 15 years of experience in this area. Personally, I have more than 15 years experience in the industry of working with refurbished goods. So this is why I was brought to the table here from Vimo's side.
Super. Let's get into the details then. So what is right to repair? What does it matter now? Why is this happening now? To give a bit of context, I think there are three streams leading into right to repair, two from the regulator side and one from the consumer side. The legislator or the EU found that two things were happening. They felt consumers were getting cheated out on their products, that products that they bought and owned didn't survive much longer than the warranty. The second problem that they saw was that the amount of e-waste was increasing massively and becoming a problem. So that led into the Green Deal, especially on the e-waste side, and that piece of or that policy is now moving from nice big words really into concrete obligations. And the right to repair is one of those concrete pieces of legislation that will actually directly impact businesses now. And the other piece that they came in from was that if you own something, you should be able to repair it. So products should be expected to last longer. At the same time, we saw a shift from the consumers where circularity became much more important to them. And I think over 50% of consumers today have a circular shopping habit, meaning that they buy refurbished goods, sell secondhand, etc. So this also leads into it that there's a strong consumer demand for having products repaired, not only replaced when they break down.
Yeah. To put this into context, so the retailer part of this chain, where are we at today? So from our side, what we see with many of our clients, where are they? Where are you? So you have many retailers, they do have a support form on the side. So as a consumer, I can contact the retailer and start the reclamation process. The issue here is everything after that is very manual. And this manual flow with this new legislation, with where you can expect an increased demand from consumers, will be very costly if you do nothing.
Yeah, it will. I mean, there's two sides to it, Michael. Both, as I wrote, compliance risk. Of course, the legislator will go after non-compliant companies, but there's also a loyalty upside as well as a downside that I think we should address later on.
Yeah.
Because I think there's quite a bit of an upside to this as well, that most people maybe don't see right from the start. And Sweden and the Nordics, being who we are, we tend to be first out of the gate for all of these kind of consumer-friendly initiatives. And I think that you will find that the scrutiny on our markets will be much harder than if you say Italy or Spain,
Yeah.
other EU markets.
And it's not only a loyalty upside. There is a potential revenue upside. There's an entire new revenue stream you as a retailer can exploit. More on that later.
Yeah. All right. So diving into this, the first, I mean, well, the first thing I wrote was the EU's right to repair directive. It makes repairs easier, more attractive. It's great, but it's slightly more nuanced than that. This hits everyone within the ecosystem. What it really does is trying to make repairs easier and more attractive for consumers, whilst much harder to ignore for the market. It makes repairs strongly incentivized when it comes to in warranty cases. So if you have a product that's in warranty and you get it repaired, the warranty will be extended by a full year, making repairs the smarter choice for consumers. They retain the right to have their product replaced, but should they choose to repair, warranties will be extended, which makes it a much better deal for them. On the other hand, manufacturers, whom the most of the obligations under this legislation falls on, they must ensure that consumers, companies, etc., have access to spare parts and repair information for a time up to 10 years after the product has been produced. So for a very long time, they must ensure that people can repair, and that repair options are given to consumers even after warranty. So that means that everyone gets pulled into this ecosystem, because consumers, they won't go to the manufacturer first, they will go to the retailer.
Mhm.
I think just like when it comes to credit or whatever, people go to anyone in the ecosystem that they find easiest to find.
Yeah. So that means the last point, retailers, resellers pulled into the ecosystem. What does this mean? This means that all of this legislation, it's not something that happens in the background in your organization, that there is legislation that you need to live up to, requirements that you need to live up to. It needs to be front and center in front of your consumers. So it affects your platform, it affects your RMA flow. Like, for example, a personal story, very recent, very relevant. Last week, my oven failed, true story. And it wasn't a cheap one, so I wanted to have it repaired. So what do? I go to the retailer's page. There, found nothing, literally nothing. So I contacted support. A few days later, support answered, not the fastest support in the world. And I had to contact a service provider that would then schedule an appointment and come and check the oven. And in this case, I wanted to understand what's wrong with the product here. I didn't get an error code, just some random beeps. I pulled apart the oven, found the issue, ordered the spare part myself, and fixed it. And what happened? Another issue popped up. So at this point, Cyber Monday, it was actually cheaper to buy a new oven.
That,
So
that's a,
this is where we are at.
that's a great story, and I think it puts some emphasis on some of the stuff that the legislation is trying to address. First of all, transparency. it wasn't very transparent for you how this was going to be fixed. Pricing was very opaque. You didn't know how much was going to cost and how it's going to be done. And in the end, you felt that, I assume that you felt that the retailer didn't take responsibility for the product that they sold. So, question, Michael, will you be buying from that retailer again?
Well, if fixed price, yes, then I would, but not first up. And another point is, would I buy the same brand again? Not until they fix the let's say, making it easier for me to understand what's wrong. So if they had an error code on this one, yeah, for sure, I would buy the same brand. Until then, nope.
Yeah. So if we break down the legislation into new rights and new tools, keep it reasonably high level. Any product that is manufactured, or once the legislation comes into force, and that is also falls under the categories that are included into the legislation, must be repairable. It must also always be presented to the customer as a alternative when they have an issue, and it must be available to the customer for a long time after warranty. That means that as a manufacturer, you must ensure that you have processes, spare parts, guides, etc., that are available. And also in the case of Michael's example, you don't need to make repairs free, but they must be made for a reasonable price. And this is interesting. I think the legislation doesn't really comment on what is a reasonable price or not for a repair, and I think that's something that's going to have to be carved out once the legislation comes into force. But you can't use price as a way to keep consumers from repairing their ovens or refrigerators, whatever. And then again, the extended legal guarantee. So extended warranty for 1 year once the product has been fixed. Those are the rights that comes with the legislation. And then EU being EU, they think that they are the best at solving these problems. But some of the ideas behind this are not that done. One of the new tools that they're introducing is the repair information form. This is a form that it is basically an offer that the companies have to send you, where it details conditions, timing, pricing, etc., and whatever replacement products that they will give you. This, I think, in your case, Michael, would have given you much more information should the if you have gotten this. And even though you can still charge for diagnostics, you must, to your best ability, offer this free of charge, this pricing information, timings, etc. And then the EU is also going to launch a big European online repair platform where they are going to tie in the ecosystem, and everyone's going to make a lot of money on it, etc.
Yeah, I think this one, it's not only a cost perspective, it's also lost revenue. I for sure know that I'm not the only one in the world having experienced these issues, and my behavior is not a unique. So when I encounter a problem, not if, because it happens to everybody, it changes my purchase behavior. So as well, I will not be buying from this retailer because not until they fix that flow. I will not be buying from that brand, Not until they fixed, well, for one, I couldn't even find a manual for how to repair. And it's not a cheap brand. So this, it's invisible right now, but it is costing you a lot of money, more than you know. There's an entire industry built around sorting these issues.
Yeah, and I think another side note here is cost, obviously. That repairs can be still quite pricey today. But with increasing consumer demand, I think we are going to see a drop in pricing as well. And we're going to get back to consumers in a couple of slides. But just give you an idea of timelines. So the this is EU law now. It will become national law this summer. And that means that any product produced after the law comes into force is applies for under the right to repair. And that kind of timeline is actually quite a bit dangerous because it's far enough away for you to ignore it, but close enough that if you do ignore it, you will end up in a last minute scramble. And there's quite a lot to be done, if not only to figure out, do I sell goods that fall under the right to repair? Okay, so what falls under right to repair? So the legislation is built in a way that it will continuously expand its scope. And it starts off with household appliances, TVs, white goods, etc. These are products that currently have repairability requirements under the eco design initiative. So some of the infrastructure is already there, but it deepens the obligations for these products. What is then going to happen is that the scope is going to grow, and we don't really know yet which products are going to fall under. What's being discussed are things like textiles, furniture, upholstery, e-bikes. Funny enough, apparently they produce enormous amount of waste, and various professional equipment as well, which is going to be in the next round of products coming to fall under the agenda. Again, fair warning on the Nordic market. And I don't know if we have a retailer with us here from Germany or from the continental Europe sells into the Nordics. You are going to be monitored more closely than in your home market on this. This is a big thing for the local legislators.
Yeah.
The last point here is that it's going to become a scramble because we don't know what the law text is going to look like in the Nordics yet. There is a couple of committees working on this, and we believe that the actual legislation is going to come out in January, which makes it quite a short time to implement this. So you really need to get your skates on if this applies to you.
Yeah, and talking of timing here, so power with the repower concept you see, 2 points I want to make on this one. Point one is this concept they launched in 2021 on their own. They did this because they actually experienced a lot of business from the first concept they launched in, I think it was 2015 or 17, something, where they've been building their own platform, their own infrastructure for handling this. So that gives you an idea on the time, the scale. They were front runners in this, but it still took years. And this is why Vimo, why we chose to share the platform with Wilhelm, because you will not have years to implement. you will need to adopt an already existing infrastructure, unless you have very, very deep pockets. Um, it's not cheap implementing this from scratch. It's not fast. Time is not on your side.
Yeah, I agree. Power is a great example. It took them quite some time to get the entire ecosystem to work as well, where
Yeah,
they can repurchase their own products from the consumers, refurb them or fix whatever's broken, and then sell them in their own store. And if you, especially in Norway, if you go into a power store, they have an entire section which is just repower, which makes a lot of sense for many types of purchases.
it really does. I worked in a company where we partnered with Power to provide the platform, and they saw the amount of business that it brought. So purchasing and reselling used electronics was already profitable, but they could also use it to keep their customers in their ecosystem. So return a previously bought product and buy a new one for cheaper.
Yeah,
Even they got people from competition coming to them. So they launched this initiative in 21 because it was a very, very good, profitable revenue stream.
yeah.
That's the opportunity. They saw
And
it.
that is something that we work as well with our customers, is really to keep them within their own ecosystem, to help them repurchase their own products, because the supply is there. It's just the demand can be quite difficult to find for
I
within
would say the
this.
reverse. I would definitely say the demand is there.
Yeah,
So you have businesses, it's all they do. You have European platforms doing nothing but the purchasing and reselling of used electronics and refurbished. There is a very, very large and growing industry. It's billions of euros yearly within this industry. And to many
yeah.
retailers, to many manufacturers, it's invisible. The money's there, the demand is there.
The money just sits with someone else. I mean, a lot of retailers, I
Yes.
think, I believe they leave a lot of money on the table for this.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to opportunities, which is slightly more exciting than just talking about the risks and the consequences. But I just want to I just want to sort of sum up who does what when it comes to obligation. So the legislation puts most of the responsibility on the manufacturer. So manufacturer must design for repairability. They must provide spare parts. They must make sure that you can repair for 10 years. But retailers, they the obligations of them are much smaller. I mean, they must communicate repair options clearly. You need to have processes to route and track repairs efficiently, etc. But do you think consumers care? They don't. They will look at the receipt and see whatever logo is on there, and
Mm.
that's where they are going to go. They don't care about your internal contracts. They don't care about RMA processes, whatever. They care about the feeling that I bought something from you and I expect you to fix it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Which means,
Elon is a,
sorry,
is a
to break it in here, like you have to fix your front end. You have to make sure the process is efficient in the front end. I need to
yeah,
stress this because right now, many retailers, you have a link to a support page. You may have a phone number. It won't cut it.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
even though that the legal responsibility may sit with the manufacturer, I mean, if you go buy a vacuum cleaner from Miele at your local Elon store, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to Miele? I don't know. I don't even know where Miele is.
Mm.
I'm going to talk to Elon. I expect them to help me.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot to be done there on the front end. How do you communicate about this? How do you track it? What kind of information do you need to cover, etc. And
Yeah.
that very smoothly leads us into operational impact. Um, And what's going to happen? The obvious thing that's going to happen is that you are going to be sit with a lot more repair cases rather than refunds. Refunds are simple. Replacement products can be sent. Then you send an invoice to your supplier. That's not going to happen anymore. You need to have processes for triage, finding out, is this wear and tear? Is it a warranty case, user damage? Or is the product insured? Is it not insured, in warranty, out of warranty, etc.? How do you collect the information that you need from the consumer to make this efficient? If you try to do this via spreadsheet and email, I can tell you, my friends, that's not going to cut it. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to keep track of. And then you need routing. Where am I going to send this? Am I sending it to a workshop, external, internal, service partners, etc.? And how do I keep consumers from calling me and saying, "Where's my product? How's this going? What's happening?" So I think in many ways it is a complete redesign of your operational flows that is required here, and you will feel pain very quickly if you don't do this early on.
Yeah, and here again with the front end, so you need to manage diagnostics triage. You need to make that information available in the front end in a structured manner. So you might be selling tens of thousands of products. That's tens of thousands of different cases on what do I do with this product? That's a complication. You might be handling tens of thousands of orders. You need to make it easy for the consumer to register file a complaint with this order. You need to track it in your customer service. You need to do it efficiently. Otherwise, what will happen is with inefficiency, it will take days for you to get back to the customer. The customer won't be as forgiving. They have an issue. They have a product they expect it to work. So as a consumer, I would call you, the retailer, and ask, what's the status of this? Adding an additional workload on your customer service, and again delaying the response time for new customers, and it keeps rolling. So that's why the front end, how you handle it, and the back end needs to be tied into the front end.
Yeah, and you really need to think through the entire operations flow, because today a lot of retailers' operations flows are geared towards, I can do with returns, and then I just replace products and make sure that I get paid from the manufacturer, and then that's a manual process. That's not going to cut it anymore. So if nothing else, this slide is a fair warning to you. So we talked a little bit about consumer demand before, and I'm going to give you a couple of proof points here. We recently published a study that we call State of Repairs. It's available on our website to download. You don't even have to leave your email. And what we did was we measured consumer sentiment towards repairs. And we asked consumers, would you rather have repair under warranty than buy something new? And 81% of consumers said that they would. And we thought, wow, this is great. So we thought, this must be a big business now. We're missing out on something. Why do we see this? So we asked consumers, so have you done this then? And then only 12% said that they had. So a massive gap between demand and execution. And okay, why is this then? And so we started asking consumers what keeps them from repairing. And I think you already heard me talk about this, that it was price. It's too expensive. And that is something that I think has to do with demand, and if demand would rise and make it more easier for consumers to buy these services, they would come down in price. But also there is a piece here which I think that we can talk to the legislature about, especially with an election year in Sweden, is that you, for whatever reason, pay VAT on repair services. You pay high VAT on repair services, which doesn't make sense because you already paid VAT for that product. But that is a political question. And also, I mean, how people felt that they couldn't get information how to do this and where to turn, etc. And lastly, on the consumer side here, when we looked at younger consumers, like 18 to 35, the demand was almost universal. So huge shift is going to come here. And I think that once right to repair becomes more widely known, and I know that the consumer agency, at least in Sweden, is planning a big campaign around this. Demand and expectations are going to be raised significantly. And again, consumers are not going to be so much in the know that they know that they have to go to that the obligations falls under the manufacturer. Who are they going to come to? To whoever sold them the product.
Yeah. So knowing that time can be short, that this legislation is coming, we know demand will increase for this. How prepared are you for this new legislation? And let's see. So what do we have so far? We've got 2/3 of the audience here not ready at all. 1/3 we started preparing. So what we're seeing, some people doing it, the majority not ready.
It would be super interesting from those of you who said that you have started preparing for this. Maybe if you can in the Q&A talk very quickly on your experiences so far and how you go about this. All right. So now to something slightly more exciting, from obligation to opportunity. I think done right to repair, can really shift from a pure cost to a profit center, and especially a loyalty driver. There's quite a lot of opportunities out here, and especially for first mover, really cementing your brand as repair friendly. You can upsell around repairs. You can sell repairs. There's a great brand down the street from where I sit called Scandinavian Photo that really encourages consumers to come back with their old equipment to have it repaired. Hi-Fi Club, same thing, great Danish brand, do the same thing. And also, once you get products from the consumers that they don't want anymore, repurchase them, sell them as second life product, refurb, pre-loved, call it whatever you like. Poland and Pyret, fantastic example. One of my favorite brands. Their consumer promise is 3 kids in every piece of clothing, which I think is super strong. And when it comes to, again, Michael's experience here with his oven, I mean, have the whoever sold it to him said, Michael, we'll fix this. That means that they take responsibility for what they said. They're proud of their products, and they help you when you run into problems. And I'm sure that any future ovens would have been bought from the same
or other
place.
whiteware. Yeah, it's not just ovens; it's other whitewares as well. Um, so another brand, I'm pretty sure everyone you've heard of what they've done. So Apple, they decided to launch a program where they purchase the old MacBooks, the old iPhones, and then they refurbish them and sell them. The most important point why they did this is they saw a lot of consumer demand for used iPhones, for used MacBooks. So they saw many consumers shifting away from their business of purchasing new products. So they did this as a defensive move to keep their business. It's also profitable for them to do this again. But this is again, pointing out the case, there is a market for it. So the question is, if you have the business model and with this legislation where you need to comply with the right to repair, you actually have a cost center
Yeah,
that fits.
yeah,
So I would really stress this point that yes, you need to live up to the legislation. Yes, you need to make sure you have your processes under control, compliant. Uh, but once you have that, begin investigating what can you do to profit from this. Then you get the best of both worlds. You keep your consumers, you make sure you're compliant, and it's extra money.
yeah. Because what happens if you don't? We're not going to spend too much time on this, but there's an obvious non-compliance risk. We don't know what the fines, etc., are going to look like yet, but I think your competitors are going to make this an advantage for themselves. So really, really, really want to stress that this is not a legal issue. This should really be part of your brand strategy going forward.
Yeah. So you will see this. I think you touched upon a key point here. Your competitors will be doing this. So having this pushed towards manufacturers, pushed towards retailers, will increase awareness. So if your competitors are doing this and you are not, where does that leave you?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so um, I put together a checklist uh, to help you really start this work, or for those of you who already started it, to um, make sure that you're covering all of your bases. And I think the important first step is always to map what is our current situation. What do we sell? Does the products that we sell fall under this legislation or not? Make sure that your suppliers can provide you with the spare parts, etc. How do we make sure that we get the goods throughout the lifetime of the product? If you are a manufacturer, how do I design and sell goods that are repairable, even if they are not currently within scope of the legislation? Um, and how do I train my organization to be able to do that? And then comes the two last points, which I think are quite key. First of all, is how do we communicate to consumers around this? And I think that needs to happen. That needs to start to happen already now, because the consumer demand is there, and it's only going to increase now that the legislation is going to be much more talked about. And then maybe the last part, or maybe shouldn't be the last part, maybe should be one of the first things that you do, is that you start thinking about business development. How can we drive this? How can we create more opportunities around this?
Yeah, I have a question for you here, Wilhelm, on this one, because having been working for multiple retailers, I can identify with what challenges will I be facing. So there is, okay, we need to fix the front end. We need to make sure it's consumer facing, it's efficient. Customer service, yes, we need to make sure they are efficient. They're supported by the right flow. So if I'm a reseller, I don't manufacture the goods. I now need to make sure that what I'm selling can be repaired and it's efficient. One concern I would have is, well, who do I partner up with? How do I handle that entire flow? Because that is a major pain. It's not easy to do, to figure out what is the market here. How would I handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are, of course, there are multiple vendors for repair services that work with different brands, etc. And we've integrated over 250 workshops throughout the years. So we're more than happy to help you pinpoint the correct supplier for the right product, regardless of whether you want warranty repairs or non-warranty repairs. So please reach out in that case if you have any questions around this.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next one, do you know the next steps, like to prepare for the right to repair? Do you have a plan? And let's see the results. Incoming. So right now we're half of the audience here, somewhat, but we need more guidance. All right. And then it's a mix between, yes, we have a clear plan, or we are not ready at all. So 22% on each. And then 56% on we need more guidance.
Happy to help.
Yeah. So this is your platform for asking questions and getting that guidance. So if you have specific questions, have them ready.
Super. Because how can we help with this? Obviously, well, from Reclaimit side, we have an end-to-end platform for this. Obviously, where it handles anything from repairs, claims, returns, re-commerce, etc. But which I think most importantly is that we can automate the entire triage part, making sure knowing what's going to be refunded, what's going to be replaced, what's going to be repaired, etc. And we can do that by brand or even by product category, etc. Plus, we have again 250 integrated workshops, meaning that we can basically cover anything and making sure at the same time as we provide you with an audit trail and the reporting that you need in case the legislator comes asking questions.
Yeah. From our side, it's definitely customer facing and customer service facing. So it's about guidance on how do you take all this information, provide it in the front end in an efficient manner, both from a development perspective, but also from a customer experience perspective. And then it's about the automation. So depending on the size of your business, you might have a very strong need to make sure this is as automated as possible. And then, of course, integrations between systems like Reclaimit with Wilhelm, or other providers. We also handle that.
And you're also really the expert in the consumer experience and how you spend a lot of time thinking about how do we avoid situations like your oven incident.
Yeah, this is about consumer behavior as much as it is about how do you handle the process. The process is the result of what behavior we see.
expectations rather than behaviors as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So we arrived towards the end. Um, do we have any questions, Michael?
Not in the chat. Let's see. Got one here. So, a question from your experience: what are the bigger practical blockers companies face when shifting from refund replace to repair first flows? So, any personal reflections or stories with your clients? Um, I can start. So, again, one of the biggest practical blockers that is about the infrastructure. So, as a what I see with retailers, what we're experiencing. So, implementing the RMA flows, automating the process, that's almost business as usual, developing features. But the entire infrastructure thing around how do you actually handle this? Because it's in many markets, it's quite immature. So you have a manufacturer, you're buying your products there. If you have an issue, you have an email that you send to their support, and that's it.
Hmm.
So that's a very practical issue that
Yeah,
many people are facing.
and getting everyone on board as well. We work with a very large Norwegian DIY chain of stores who sell like drills and wood and all kind of thing you need when you build your hytte.
Mhm.
And it's not that we invented the wheel. We work with claims. We work with people come to them and say, "Oh, I bought this. It doesn't work." That process has always been there for as long as people have sold stuff. But what I don't know if you've ever been to one of these stores. The only thing you want to do there is that you want to talk to someone who worked there. What size of timber should I work? Should I buy? What kind of screws do I need? How do you do this? And how do I make cement or whatever? So the company, they found that they don't want their employees to stand around handling claims, etc. So we really helped them automate that entire process and move it from an offline brick and mortar retail environment into the online space. That way, they were able to have their store people focus on actually helping consumers buy rather than to receive refunds. And key was here really to map out the entire product categories that they had. How are we going to work with each product category? What's going where, etc. And then moving that online rather than from in the brick and mortar store.
Mhm. And I would say any questions you do have, if you think of any like later, or you have very specific questions specific for your business, or questions you don't want to share in this public forum, what I recommend is if it's related to the e-commerce platform, the customer service platform, direct your questions to me. There's a link here for my LinkedIn. If you have questions related to the handling of the returns, of how do I work with the entire integration flow behind that, definitely Wilhelm is the
Yeah,
guy for
yeah,
this.
and we're more than happy to help you with it with an audit to go over your existing flows, etc.
Mhm.
Workshop a little bit around that. So please reach out. I'm here.
Yeah. And so if you're sitting with questions, all right, now I know there's the compliance part, there's the handling part, but it might be new that, well, there's also a business opportunity. What are the considerations for that? How can my business um, benefit from that? Do reach out. Um, I have experience. So I have experience working as a retailer selling new products. I've experienced working as a company buying and selling used electronics, everything. If you could plug it into a power socket, we would purchase it,
Yeah.
and resell it and refurbish it. So we didn't sell any new products at all. It was the entire business model was around exactly this subject.
Yeah. So Michael was basically the guys taking the money that the retailers left on the table.
Yeah, good money, by the way, good money.
And if you want to make sure that doesn't happen to you, come and talk to us.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much for joining. It's been great fun.